The United States probably never expected that the first island chain they had built in the Western Pacific, which took more than 70 years to build with 5 countries, would now be broken by a Chinese railway. This railway is an international line built by China in cooperation with many countries. It is about 3,500 kilometers long and is an important westward channel to Russia, Central Asia, and the Middle East. Among them, Russia and Thailand also participated in this project. The United States' strategic idea of trying to blockade China now seems to have completely failed. So, do you know what the first island chain built by the United States is? How did China break this plan through this railway? If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. In 1951, in order to consolidate its global hegemony, John Foster Dulles, an advisor to the U.S. State Department, put forward an ambitious strategic concept. He believed that the United States should establish a coastal island chain defense zone in the Pacific consisting of Japan, the Ryukyu Islands, Taiwan, the Philippines, and Australia. This concept was soon implemented, and the United States subsequently signed a series of security treaties with the Philippines, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, and South Korea. Since then, this series of islands on the edge of the Eurasian continent has gradually been built by the United States into a chain in the Western Pacific. Not only that, the United States has further constructed the second and third island chains. The second island chain extends about 1,800 nautical miles from the coast of China, passing through the area from Japan to Guam, then to Palau, and finally to Indonesia. The third island chain extends from the Aleutian Islands to Hawaii, from the Line Islands to Tonga, and finally to New Zealand. But among these 3 defense chains, the first island chain is the core of the United States' strategic layout in the Western Pacific and the subject of our important discussion today. From the map, the northernmost end of the first island chain is the Japanese archipelago, which is located on the east side of the Eurasian continent and the northwest of the Pacific Ocean. The entire island chain is like a long line of defense, extending from the Kuril Islands to Japan, from the Ryukyu Islands via Okinawa to Taiwan, and then from the Philippines to Malaysia, tightly surrounding the East China Sea and the South China Sea. In this line of defense, the most critical node is undoubtedly Taiwan Island. Taiwan is located at the intersection of the East China Sea and the South China Sea. This also means that if Taiwan can be controlled, it can break through the blockade of the first island chain, and can also control the important waterways entering the inner waters of the second island chain, while opening up a convenient path to the open sea. But initially, the United States layout in the first island chain was established to deal with the Soviet Union. During the Cold War, the Pacific direction was an important front for the confrontation between the East and the West. At that time, the Soviet Union's Pacific Fleet strategic nuclear submarines could enter the Pacific at any time, posing a huge threat to the United States. Since the disintegration of the Soviet Union, this pattern of confrontation has changed. At the same time, China, a country with a population of 1.4 billion, has rapidly risen to become the world's second largest economy in just over a decade, which has put unprecedented pressure on the United States. Therefore, after entering the 21st century, China naturally became the main target of the United States' blockade of the first island chain. So do you know how much impact this island chain has on China? As far as I know, the United States has been working hard to build the so-called island chain, and its core goal is to prevent China from entering the Pacific Ocean through this line of defense. Since the age of exploration, maritime power has been an important symbol of national strength. If a country cannot effectively control its own waters, then its economic development and national strength construction will face huge challenges. But the location of the first island chain is very close to China, and the closest place is even only about 160 kilometers, almost on the dividing line between China's waters and the Pacific Ocean. So when we look at the geopolitical pattern of East Asia, the island chain, carefully designed by the United States, has actually formed a kind of encirclement of China and built a maritime defense line around China's east and south. Especially in the South China Sea, some waters west of the Philippines have actually restricted China's navigation range in the South China Sea by nearly 70%. Through this line of defense, the United States can block China's important ports, curb the activities of the Chinese Navy, and even directly threaten China's economic lifeline. In addition, the military forces deployed by the United States and its allies in the first island chain can also strengthen military deterrence against China and even conduct military intervention when necessary. But in the face of the U.S. blockade, China did not choose to sit and wait. Over the past decade, China has increased the construction and deployment of military forces in the South China Sea and the East China Sea, and continuously improved the equipment level of islands, reefs, ships, aircraft, and missiles in order to enhance its defense and countermeasure capabilities. With the completion of military bases in the South China Sea, Chinese naval ships have conducted military exercises near the first island chain of the United States many times, and even went to the farther western Pacific through these sea bases to carry out training, escort, and other tasks. However, it is still difficult for China to break through the first island chain by military force alone. In addition, frequent military exercises may further exacerbate tensions between China and the United States and even trigger potential conflicts. Although China does have the military ability to break through the U.S. first island chain blockade and directly enter the second island chain, in terms of shipping and trade, the United States can still impose certain restrictions on China through the first island chain. It is worth mentioning that in addition to strengthening its military presence and defense capabilities in the South China Sea and the East China Sea, China began to break the geopolitical blockade through global trade cooperation many years ago. Beijing continues to use economic means to deepen cooperation with countries and regions along the route, and gradually established a multi-level and wide-coverage trade network. Among them, the most noteworthy is the cross-border railway cooperation reached between China, Russia, and Thailand. This railway has enabled China to build a powerful interconnection system on the Eurasian continent, and this system is constantly expanding and improving. With the gradual implementation of this cross-border railway, the blockade of the first island chain, carefully designed by the United States, is also losing its effect little by little. So, what kind of international railway is this? In fact, the Russian-Chinese-Thai Railway is an important project that will completely change the transportation pattern of Southeast Asia, and it has also become a new bridge connecting China and Southeast Asian countries. This railway can be said to be a transnational high-speed rail dream, woven by China, Laos, Thailand, and Malaysia, with a total length of about 3,500 kilometers. Once completed, it will completely rewrite the transportation map of the entire region. In Laos, the railway winds through 414 kilometers, passing through picturesque villages and dense tropical rainforests along the way. After entering Thailand, the railway continues to extend for 608 kilometers, seamlessly connecting with Thailand's railway network, and finally enters Malaysia, extending about 40 kilometers, almost directly to Kuala Lumpur. The railway adopts China's construction standards, with a design speed of 160 kilometers per hour, and was completed by the end of 2023. Interestingly, before the railway was officially opened to traffic, China-Europe train loaded with 32 cars of Russian non-metallic ore products had successfully left the country. This train has further unblocked the logistics chain of the Eurasian continent through the China-Laos Railway to China-Europe Express, an international railway transportation channel. With the help of this railway, Chinese goods can be quickly transported to Southeast Asia, and Southeast Asia's specialty products can also quickly enter the Chinese market. This interconnected model has undoubtedly brought huge business opportunities to both sides and greatly promoted economic and trade cooperation in the region. Recently, Georgia and Turkey have also actively joined, opening the door to a middle corridor for China in the Caucasus region. The core of this channel is to start from China, pass through Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Turkey, and finally arrive in Europe with a total length of about 8,500 kilometers. Among them, there are about 3,000 kilometers in China, about 2,500 kilometers in Central Asia, about 1,000 kilometers in the Caucasus, and about 2,000 kilometers in Turkey. This means that Chinese goods can be shipped directly from Lianyungang through Georgia and Turkey to the center of Europe, Berlin. Through the Russian-Chinese-Thai Railway in this middle corridor, China has cleverly bypassed the first island chain and opened up a land channel connecting the Eurasian continent, providing more stability and security for its strategic depth. Against this backdrop, the blockade strategy of the first island chain, which was once regarded as a means to contain China, has become increasingly powerless. In my opinion, the first island chain, which was once considered the strongest, is now gradually showing cracks, so it will be difficult for the second and third island chains of the United States to effectively block China's development in the future. Moreover, with the changes in the global geopolitical landscape, more and more countries are aware of the importance of cooperation with China. In the Middle East, Vietnam, Belarus, Turkey, Georgia, and other countries, they have sought to establish closer economic and strategic partnerships with China. Against this background, the U.S. plan to contain China through blockade is becoming increasingly difficult to achieve. So, do you think the U.S. island chain blockade strategy will be broken? To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.